So it's definitely feeling like an early autumn. It is raining, but jobs have got to be done. The yellow wellies are back on, and yes, it's definitely feeling like summer is over. So I have been shopping and I bought quite a few varieties of green manure this year. I've got like an autumn winter mix. I've also got some clover, red clover. I've got some field beans, which is probably more than enough. And yeah, I might have bought too much green manure of the white mustard seed, so we'll see. Now, I've tried green manures in the past and I've had some successes and some failures where rodents have gone in the bed, they've decimated it just as they have started to germinate. So we're going to see how we get on again with it this year. I'm going to give it a good go. Now, I've bought different varieties for certain reasons. So the new plot is quite dense with clay, and the fig and olive plot is quite good. You know, there's a lot of raised beds and I've had a lot of organic matter in this. So I'm going to use different green manures for there and different ones here. But I am going to try a multitude of green manures on the new plot and see how they get on and compare them as well. Now, the idea is that you put in green manure over the start of autumn and winter, let it grow on, and then before it starts to flower, there's nitrogen all in those roots, and you chop off the plants, dig it all in if you want, or lay it on top. Especially the field beans, they've got a lot of nodules of nitrogen in the roots, and the idea is that you chop it off before it goes to flower. Now, the plants, what normally happens is they grow all these nitrogen nodules in the roots, and then just as they're gonna, you know, they want to start going into flower, they use all that nitrogen to boost the plant. Now, what you're gonna do is you're gonna chop it off before it gets to that stage, leave the nitrogen in the soil, and then when you put things in there later on in spring, beans, you know, your brassicas, they're gonna tap into that nitrogen that you've grown all over autumn and winter, and we'll have healthy plants, and it'll also, you know, pack out that bed with nutrients. So that's the plan. We'll see how we get on. You know, it can go two ways. We might have a really, you know, awful winter, or rodents and whatnot might go through the beds, but we're gonna give it a go anyway. We're gonna try. So that's the plan today, is to feed the beds, but also sort out a few other things that are going on in the allotment, because it's been quite wet this week. My microphone still hasn't turned up. I had a nightmare. It was just a freak accident. It almost it almost burnt my house down, if I'm being quite honest. It melted. I could smell like a burning smell, and good job I've got like a white marble kitchen counters that kept it, you know, from burning really. But they've rectified the issue. They've sent me new microphones, but I'm just waiting for them. They should be coming today, but sod's law, I need to film today. So we're over here. Let's get the jobs done. The polytunnel now is looking very sorry for itself. There's quite a few plants now that need to be ripped out because it's definitely all dying back now. There's still quite a few tomatoes that are green. I'm thinking maybe keep a few of them in just to try and ripen, but the majority of the tomatoes now, I've had a great success with tomatoes this year, and same with peppers, cucumbers, chilies, you name it. The polytunnel's been great, but it's time to clear out a lot of it. The foliage is starting to die off now and stuff, and I want to get it out before we get to blight. There's a lot of moisture in the air now, you know, it's raining and then we're going quite warm days, and that's like a breeding feed from blight. So I want to get it all out before I get to that. Some people try and hang on and keep the last tomatoes going, but that's not me. I'd rather be proactive and preventative of blight, because it's horrible on your hands, you know, in the air, and you're trying to get it all out with all that grey dust and all. Oh, it's horrendous, but that's kind of the plan as well. And yeah, let's crack on. And I can't stay over long because it's Louis' birthday. He is 13 today. Oh, bless him. But yeah, I'm going to spend a bit of time over here, get a few jobs done, then celebrate Louis' birthday. And yeah, there's lots going on as well. I think there's something else I'm supposed to tell you as well, but I can't remember. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Oh, I've passed my final exam for this year, so I'm really pleased about that. It's taken a lot of pressure off, you know. I wanted to do well in it, and I managed to get 87.5% out of 100, so well happy with that result. So yeah, the exams now, another year and I'll be finished, and there'll be more time for the garden, I'm sure. But trying to juggle work, uni, the YouTube, the editing, family life, social life, eating, sleeping, you name it, into my life. I don't know how I do it, but I just manage. But for the next few hours, it is all about the garden. So yeah, let's crack on. Now I'm gonna get wet because this is literally one of the worst jobs to do, especially at the start of autumn. It's taking the beans down. They've all been drenched in water because it's been raining for days and days, but it's a job that you have to do. And I'm putting it off, but I'm kind of thinking, shall I do it now and get out the way? I don't know what to do. There's a few other jobs on the garden and they're all wet and mucky jobs. And that's the problem with having an allotment, especially in autumn, is it's not all, you know, nice shirts and, you know, looking all nice in the garden and doing plot tours. This is the messy part of allotment life that's coming up, and here comes the rain again.
We got nowhere to be, just a slow dance with the summer heat. The world outside can't wait a few, 'cause right now we got nothing else to do. The sun's peeking through the cotton white blinds. Your hands still tangled up in mine. We got nowhere to be. Got nowhere to be. Your hair's a mess, but you don't mind. You just laugh, let it fall where it lies.
So the sun has popped back out quickly, so I'm going to get some green manure in. We can carry on doing this because the showers are going to be here all day, but it's just going to be one of those days where you're dodging the showers. Let's get the green manure in. So earlier I mentioned the new plot. This plot has a lot of clay. There's quite a big clay pan underneath the soil. So for this side of the allotment, I'm using clover. Now clover, this one's a red clover. It's perfect for clay soil. So if you're thinking about which one should I use, clover is a great one because it really will bed in those roots, break up the clay soil, enriching your soil as well. And that's why I've chosen clover for one of these beds, because obviously, like I mentioned, the clay pan underneath, all that clay, I want to break it up, and eventually I want this soil to be really manageable. But at the moment, you know, you go down about 6 to 8 inches and the clay, it dries up so hard in summer, and the roots that are there are drying out, and it's just not good for the plant. So eventually I want to work this plot, but by using clover over autumn and winter, that's the plan. And plus they give some nice beautiful red flowers. Are we going to get that stage? Who knows? But I'm just going to rake it over now and then seed it and rake it over, and it's as easy as that. This was quite good because the rodents don't tend to mess with it as much. So by covering it now, I've kept all the weeds off. I'm going to remove all that now. I was going to leave it there for winter, but I'm going to remove that now. And then, yeah, this was quite easy. It's basically rake, seed, rake back over, job done. Job done. This cardboard won't go to waste. It will be used in the compost heap, so it will rot down and all the worms will absolutely love this, I'm sure. But it is a soggy mess. Now, I'm not going to do all the beds. There's only going to be certain ones where I feel I've taken a lot out of the bed over the last couple of years. I mean, especially that one. I've had garlic in there for 2 years and it would be a perfect bed for garlic again, I'm sure. But I'm going to gamble and I'm going to move it to a new, new bed this year in October. And now I normally plant my garlic around about Halloween, October the 31st. So if you are thinking about doing garlic as well, plan to get some bulbs now as well. I'm going to be doing elephant garlic, probably Cadors and Lautrec again like I normally do. But that bed has definitely served me well for 2 years. And I was thinking about putting it back in there again, but I feel like I need to put back into the soil there. So when the beans come out, I might give this a good feed or one of the beds and then put a pile of garlic in. And here comes the bloody rain again. But at least the clover is getting watered in. Right, back to the polytunnel. It's definitely going to be one of those days today where I'm just going to be dodging showers, doing bits and bobs. I mean, that's what happens, I guess, but this is literally a perfect example of having a shed, a greenhouse or polytunnel. Just to hide out in when all this rain comes. I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry there's no microphone, but next week definitely microphone will be back. Now I've kept the string on these. They were for like membrane. They're like pins. And I use these to push into the beds this year and then run the strings up to the, the poles for the tomatoes, and they worked really, really well. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to keep them like this, all in little spools, pop them in like a mushroom tray in the shed, and they'll be good to go for next year. Now this is paracord, so it will last a long, long time. So I didn't use string or anything. So I'm hoping that these will be used, well, for the foreseeable future. So the staging's back up. Oh god, that feels good. And well, some of the staging. And what I'm doing now is I've moved the drip feeders from the harvest watering system from the bottom beds up to here. Now I have got sprayer systems up here which I'll use in spring, but for now these are getting a little bit neglected because I've been transferring all the water to the remaining tomatoes. But now they're going to get a good bit of water in now for the next couple of weeks, and hopefully some of these will ripen up. But yeah, it's nice to see the staging back. Now I will decrease the volume of water that's going to these chilies. They don't need as much as tomatoes. At the moment I think is at like 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes in the afternoon, or maybe even longer. I'm not quite sure now. I've been, it's been variable the last couple of months. But when it was really hot here, God, it was pumping the water around the polytunnel. It was a godsend. But for these, I probably will drop down to maybe like 30 seconds of water a day. But a few of them are quite dry at the moment because they've been neglected for a week or so. So I'm going to give it a good drenching for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll decrease the watering just to once a day, probably in the morning time, and then yeah, it'll have water then throughout the day. And hopefully at the front of the polytunnel here now, it'll get a good bit of sun and it'll ripen up the remaining peppers and chilies. Now this one is a King of the North. I've had a few off this plant, considering they're quite small, but this one now is starting to really ripen up, and it's the remaining one on this plant, so I'm happy about the King of the North. They're really, really great croppers. And yeah, the only regret I have with the chilies and peppers is I wish I potted them onto a bigger pot But again, lesson learned for next year. But yeah, I've had quite a lot of them, more than I need. So me having these huge big plants with 100 chilies on each plant, it's pointless really, because you've got nowhere to put them all unless you enjoy them that much. And I don't. I enjoy a little bit of heat, a few chilies, cayennes, you know. I love things that are quite mild in taste, jalapenos, paprika, things like that. So having these like really hot chilies and having 100 of them on a plant or 200 on a plant, it'd be pointless me growing them just to throw them away or try and find a home for them, because they're not for me. So if you've got any suggestions of chilies and peppers that are quite mild or medium heat for next year, pop them in the comments, let me know, because I am looking for a new variety to try. But my main ones are pretty boring really, the cayennes, you know, jalapeno, things like that. They're my favourite things to grow, but you know, why mend something that's not broken, eh? But I'm always willing to try something new to get a bit of, you know, flavour into my food. But yeah, so pop them in the comments if you've got any suggestions. And don't be sending me ones that have got, you know, these Scoville scales of like 1 million or something, because they're definitely not for me. And I can't seem to bring myself to throw these, you know, these blueberry tomatoes. I've had so many crops off them that I'm hoping these remaining ones now will give me the last crop of them. But yeah, I've had quite a few off the vine, and it's actually longer than it needed to be. But the good thing about these strings is that you can actually drop it down and carry on growing some. But yeah, we'll see how we get on with these. But yeah, I'm pushing my luck really. And I've also got some more long yard beans. Now I'm going to take these remaining ones off, keep a few for seed. But I've not tried them yet. I've got quite a few that I've chopped up and popped in the freezer. But I think I'm going to try these ones fresh. So if you've grown these, you know, these long beans, let me know in the comments. You know, let me know if you've enjoyed them or if you've tried them. But yeah, there's something new this year. The leeks are also doing well, but they need a desperate weeding here now. There's quite a few perennial weeds coming out, but yeah, they're doing great. They're shooting at, you know, they're a good foot or so up from the ground now and growing nice thick stems. So yeah, it's good news on the leeks. And it's just reminding me that allium leaf miner round 2 is definitely here now. You know, I'm on the cusp of it, so I'm definitely going to net this and get this covered today, because I'm pushing my luck with them. So I'm going to give it a good weed and get it all covered and protected for winter, and fingers crossed we get some good leeks this year. And the other green manures, the mustard, the field beans, and also the autumn mix that I've got, they will be distributed round the beds in the next week when the weather you know, plays game. It's tipping down again, and it's just not giving me a break. So I'm gonna leave these off a bit. But the field beans will be used on those 2 big beds that I used for the runner beans. Now obviously a lot of energy has been taken out of those beds this year for those beans, and I obviously want to replenish the energy for next year. So field beans will be going into those beds, I think. And anywhere that I'm going to be using a lot of nitrogen next year, cabbages, you know, things like the brassica family, runner beans, French beans, all those type of things, you want to start using things that are going to nitrogen fix your soil. Now the only problem with these is that autumn is a perfect time for them to naturally source out food to store for winter. Now what am I going to be doing? Putting this into a bed and then hope that they don't discover it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this into the bed and net it, and hopefully hopefully they won't find that bed, and a lot of it will germinate and start producing, you know, nice little plants in the next coming weeks, and then they'll leave it alone, I hope. But I've had problems with these field beans on the grapevine plot years ago, and I ended up with about 6 plants. Now some people do put them into module trays and grow them on. I'm going to see how we get on for the next week or so, and fingers crossed, but I'm going to net it. So I'm going to get the beans done the next couple of days and get that done. Right, let's go out to the rain. Have I got my raincoat? No, I haven't got my raincoat, so I've just got a hoodie, and I need to net that bed. So I'm gonna I'm going to avoid doing the weeding for today. I just want to get the net up so it's protected from allium leaf miner. Let's go. But I have got a bobble hat, so first bobble hat for the season. Let's go. So it's all weeded and netted now. Now the weeds are still on the top, but they've all been knocked off by their roots, so they'll just die down and feed the soil anyway. I've left this purposely. When I planted the leeks, I made sure I left a foot on the edge of the bed here, and the reason is because I'm going to have a lot of work going back and forth here with knocking down the shed and whatnot, and I wanted to have more access. So I am going to put a plank of wood down there so that's nice and secure, but for now I just got a plant pot there to keep the net going, because the wind is picking up. But yeah, at least that's done. So the sun seems to be staying out for a little bit, I hope. So I'm going to start taking down one of these trellises, and at least there'll be another job ticked off. So it's going to be a wet one though. I feel like I've been quite productive today. I've had a set agenda of jobs to do, and I've tackled them considering the weather has battled me through this period at the plot, but we got it. I am so happy that I've ticked off some of those jobs now, because it just means it's one step closer to getting the beds all flat to the ground, to ground zero, and then yeah, it's the next part then as well. Autumn prep, showing you how to get your garden ready for spring. Construction, sheds definitely being built. I'm honestly thrilled about that, but yeah, yeah, I'm happy. Oh, and the last thing I remember that I was going to tell you about, I am around about 50 subs away from 10k. Now, can you believe my little channel, which I started a few years ago, and I thought, you know, a few family members will watch, and we're at 10k. Well, we're almost at 10k, so if you haven't subscribed, please, 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 you know, give me that last little boost. Do not unsub. And yeah, let's hopefully by next week we'll get to 10k. But yeah, we're almost there. So leeks have been protected by allium leaf miner. One of the bean trellises is finally down. Most of the tomatoes on the left hand side are out. The staging's back up. Chilies have all got their watering stations done. Some of the green manure has been put in, and I am absolutely drenched. I'm Danny and this is Grow Up.